for Colin Powell and the 13. Toilet paper aisle. The panic buying starts. Even paper plates.
Wednesday, President Biden worked to get his Build Back Better plan back on track as he checked out a historic trolley in Pennsylvania. Right now, the legislation is expected to come in around $2 trillion spent over 10 years.
This has been declared dead on arrival from the moment I introduced it. But I think we're going to surprise them.
Progressives and the White House have said the plan won't cost the average taxpayer a cent.
It's zero. Because we're going to pay for it all.
Instead, tax increases on the wealthiest Americans and corporations would cover the spending. But more than one Democrat has been opposed. The administration now reportedly looking at alternatives, including a minimum corporate tax rate and a new billionaire's tax. Democrats are facing their own end-of-the-month deadline to get a deal. However, there are also thousands of transportation employees at risk if already extended funding runs out. Republicans blame the president's handling of the economy and government spending for high inflation.
They dumped almost $2 trillion on the economy, sent inflation through the roof, and they're not through.
A new Fox News poll shows 59% of voters disapprove of the way the president is handling the economy, and 7 out of 10 believe the economy is in fair or poor condition. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
These products. A spokesperson for the Ministry of Commerce of China said on Thursday that the abolition of additional tariffs is in accordance with the fundamental interests of consumers and manufacturers in China and the United States. The Office of the United States Trade Representative announced that on October the 14th, it would start the process of reinstatement of targeted potential exclusions of Chinese products subject to additional tariffs under Section 301, and that the office is requesting public comments. China and the United States are carrying out a Phase 1 agreement in an effort to settle the trade disputes between the two largest economies in the world. A military takeover that ousted Aung San Suu Kyi elected government this past February. Suu Kyi was arrested and detained with top members of her National League for Democracy party, including President Win Min. A detailed account for the Assistant Association for Political Prisoners blames security forces for the killings of almost 1,200 civilians and arresting over 9,043 others since February the 1st. The government now faces a growing insurgency with many parts of the country. Netflix employees who walked out on
A little sound check.
Freshman daughter at Mill Creek and said that she was so unnerved by the post, she kept her daughter at home today.
Whether this is a mental, disorder or we're having a mental illness situation, they need help, and maybe pressing charges at this point will snap them out of it.
An email sent to parents, the district says that it has no evidence to substantiate the threat, but it's taking the threat seriously, and as a precaution, it assigned extra officers to both schools today.
And tonight, from the police department in city. Former Forest Park police officer Nathan Gray fears his canine partner Yuri will be put down if he isn't allowed to adopt him.
I have a feeling that is what they're going to try and do, and I'm trying to prevent it.
Given the dog's age and medical issues, Gray was stunned when Forest Park police officials denied his request to retire the 11-year-old canine. Gray says the department then had animal control remove the dog from his residence a few weeks ago.
I truly believe, because we had submitted paperwork for him to be retired and for me to be able to keep him in the kennel, that, there was not an issue with the other canine handler.
We spoke with that canine handler, former Forest Park police officer Walter Freeman, by phone. Freeman says the department approved his request to retire his own canine partner in March due to the dog's age and medical issues.
My personal feelings is that Officer Gray is a great dog handler. There's a lot of animosity with all the officers that are leaving that department up there, and when Officer Gray left, it seems vindictive to us.
Gray's supporters have taken to social media, urging the department to give him the dog. The department posting a statement on Facebook in response saying all employees are required to surrender all department property in their possession upon separation from service. K9 Yuri was not up for retirement. Gray remains hopeful the department will allow him to bring Yuri home.
Hopefully they can open their eyes and realize that we have the opportunity to give this dog that has worked so long for this city and has done so much for this city, put himself in danger for the city and the citizens of Forest Park, that they would let him live out a peaceful and happy retirement with me.
Again, embarking on another investigation in search of a crime.
Bannon's case also brought up in a House hearing with Attorney General Merrick Garland, since the House would refer the case to the Justice Department. Garland, though, staying vague on how his department will handle it.
The Department of Justice will do what it always does in such circumstances. It will apply the facts and the law and make a decision consistent with the principles of prosecution.
With contempt, the Justice Department will decide whether or not to prosecute. Democrats hope they will, since it will set precedent for those who defy Congress. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox 5 News.
Returned to further search the area today amid treacherous conditions.
We're talking about water levels up above almost the chest area, rattlesnakes, moccasins, alligators. You just can't walk up and look. It's not like you're searching a house or a car. These areas are huge and they're covered by water.
A source close to the investigation tells CNN the remains appear to have been there a while. Clothing believed to be Laundrie's was found as well. Laundrie, who had not been charged in the death of his fiancée, Gabby Petito, was last seen September 13th when he went hiking in the Carlton Nature Reserve, his family said. The remains found yesterday were in the Carlton Reserve, about a 45-minute walk from the park entrance. Officials say some personal belongings believed to be Laundrie's were also found by his father.
It's quite sad. You can imagine as a parent finding your son's belongings alongside some of the remains, and that's got to be heartbreaking, and I can tell you that they are heartbroken.
But there are questions about when and where the remains were found, including the circumstances of yesterday's search that involved his parents, Roberta and Chris Laundrie. The area had been underwater until recently and only reopened to the public yesterday.
As they went further in, Chris ventured off the trail into the woods. He was zigzagging in different areas. Law enforcement was doing the same thing. At some point, Chris locates what's called a dry bag. The dry bag is a white bag laying in the woods, I'll say 20 feet or so off the trail. According to Chris, it was in some bramble.
The personal items include a backpack and notebook, but so far the contents have not been revealed. Laundrie disappeared more than a month ago. Wednesday, the FBI called him a person of interest in the killing of Petito. On September 1st, Laundrie returned to his parents' home in Florida without Petito after their summer road trip. Her remains were later found in Wyoming. Her death ruled a homicide.
All right, back here in our neck of the woods.
Laundrie. Less than an hour after that, we got the news from the FBI that Brian Laundrie's remains were those that were confirmed. As you may recall from our previous reports, Laundrie's parents say that their son first went missing back on September 13th when he went on a hike. He never came home, but the family did not report him missing until the 17th, causing the public to question the family's involvement in Brian's disappearance. Their family attorneys spoke with our Fox News digital team to clear the air on this. Take a listen.
The police legitimately believed Brian was home, and we legitimately were waiting for Brian to come home. On Friday, when it all played out, we all sat there and said, oh, okay, so the right way to do this now is to do a missing persons report so that law enforcement has, I'll say, the authority to start going out and doing an investigation on locating Brian. That's the formal procedure to follow, and that's what we did.
So there's still a lot that we don't know. We don't know Brian Laundrie's manner of death. We don't know how long ago he died. Those are all questions that the medical examiner's office will attempt to answer in the coming days. We have heard from the attorney representing the Petito family. They say that they're not quite ready to give a statement yet, but they will give a public statement and reaction to this news when they are, quote, emotionally ready. In Northport,
said 170 emergency workers and 50 vehicles were involved in putting that fire out. Earlier this week, Queen Elizabeth was advised by doctors not to take a trip she had planned to Ireland because she needed to rest. Wednesday night, Brits and those who love her got a bit of a fright as the 95-year-old monarch went to the hospital to be checked out. But she's now back home. The palace confirmed
from that area and scattered light rain showers continuing, but into tonight, into tomorrow morning, the next wave of heavy moisture moves in.
Stronger and more capable European defense. European officials have discussed ways to improve their military capabilities without being so reliant on the United States following the Western troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. Video to advocate for education and women's rights. Currently, the Taliban does not have a seat at the United Nations after seizing control of Afghanistan. However, the group says that if the UN wants to include the Taliban, to set up conditions, not just for humanitarian assistance, but to fulfill a promise to include women in everyday life.
Asked promises, because when we were in Qatar in 2019, they were mentioning about girls' education, women can go to school, women can work everywhere, and then this is the time that international community, if they're really thinking that they're our allies and they're our strategic partners, they have to pressurize Taliban to put their words in action.
Prospective employees for placement as prison guards and immigration inspectors were approached by Squid Pink personnel holding toy long-barreled guns and demanding whether the registration paperwork was complete or not. Dressed in pink Squid Game-style overalls with their faces covered, the cast also helped the metal detector checks and walk between rows of candidates seated to take the selection of exams. A woman is next.
By thunder that if I don't get what I'm asking for, I will put a bullet in the heads of these Americans.
A senior State Department official says the video appears legitimate. The White House says a ground team is in Haiti relentlessly working to rescue the captives.
Today, a moment of silence and a balloon release in the town of Southend, England, to honor British politician Sir David Amess. A week ago, the lawmaker died in a knife attack. Authorities have charged a 25-year-old man in his murder. British police say the killing was an act of terrorism by a supporter of the Islamic State group. Well, the Braves coming back with...
Intersection of Claiborne Terrace and Seminole. There's water coming from someplace here. There's a water meter right there. Why is it wet?